Yeah. So after discussing about what is the production function, and the relationship between different factors associated with production, now we'll be like talking about what is a cost. Okay. Today we'll be talking about what is a cost, what is a cost function, different variables associated with the cost function, and then different types of cost, and many more. Okay. Okay. What is a cost according to you? It's nothing but a sacrifice that anyone makes, okay, to achieve an objective. Okay, so obviously people try to measure it in the monetary terms. In the olden days we had barter system, like people try to exchange goods by um, to receive what they really want. Okay, it's just an exchange of goods. But right now we just have a currency. I mean, later it was coin, we had coins, and now we just have paper currency. And yeah, in maybe in the future we might be having cryptocurrencies, right? So we are just like exchanging uh, some services or goods. So most of the time when you buy a product, you always forgo some money in the current days, right? So that amount of money which you are ready to forgo to get a product, so that you can achieve your purpose, that is called cost. Okay. So it need not necessarily be like it should be the cost which that you're forgoing in the current, in the present. Okay, or it can be a price that you're willing to pay in the future as well. Okay. So a potential, the potential that the consumer is like has a demand for the product, and the money is willing to pay for the product. Okay. Okay, this cost results in the current or future decrease in cash or any other assets among the person who's buying it. Okay, for example, imagine I have $100. Okay, I want to buy a laptop which cost $100 exactly. So after buying this product, I'll be like losing the money. The cash that I have got like kind of decreased. If I don't have $100, maybe I just like got an old laptop. Maybe what I can do, I can just go and exchange it and get a EMI for the amount of money that I cannot pay. Okay, so here I'm not paying anything, but still I'm exchanging my good that I have currently, and also, but I'm gonna like forgo or sacrifice money in the future, right? So it can be a current decrease in cash or a future decrease in cash, or you're foregoing any of the assets, or sometimes you might get it as a liability. So here you're liable to the bank because the bank has paid it to the shopkeeper, right? And you got a liability, you will be like paying it to the bank. Okay. So what are the things that helps the firms to determine the cost of a particular product? Okay, we have like 4 levels here, but we'll be talking more about the first 3 levels more. Okay, in the next slides. The first one is price of inputs, the raw material price. Okay, or it can be a price of machineries, or the price of building a factory, the price of the land the company is willing to buy, and many more. Right?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, could you just repeat again the definition for cost, ma'am?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So it's nothing but a um, amount of money that you're willing to sacrifice to get a objective, to achieve an objective. For example, I'm planning to buy a laptop, so I'm okay to pay 50,000 rupees to buy a laptop. Okay, so here the amount of money that the person is willing to pay for it is rupees 50,000. Okay, so that is a cost. Okay, so when you like buy
Yes, ma'am.
a product, what will happen? The person who's buying the product will have their cash inflow. I mean, have their cash decreased. Imagine I got my laptop for 50,000. Well, I just had 50,000, and I got a laptop for 50,000. So my current balance is zero, right? So sometimes if you think, okay, I have an old laptop, maybe I can just try to replace that. So you are giving your one of your asset, and then for example, I'm selling my current laptop for 20,000 rupees to the shopkeeper, and then I'm buying a new laptop and pay him the remaining 30,000. So here I am forgoing my asset as well as the cash. Okay, so and sometimes you may not have money to buy a laptop, but you are like asking the bank for a loan. So the bank will pay for the shopkeeper, but you will get a EMI option from the bank to pay to the next 6 months or 10 months or 12 months. It depends on the your ability to pay. Okay, hope you understood that. Have you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Yeah. So the determinants of cost are, as I was saying, it was the price of the inputs. So the inputs can vary like main material, labor. So whatever raw materials that you're buying as well becomes your inputs. The cost of your input is one of the determinant, and the productivity of your inputs. I mean, how well your people are able to like make the products. How efficient are they? I mean, what technology that you're using. So all this comes under productivity of inputs. Next one is your technology. Technology here is the third part completely. So, for example, imagine you're just kind of manufacturing water bottles, and then if you have people sitting and then making it manually, it's going to take forever. But if you just like get a machine which molds the plastic and then cast it, so you'll be able to make hundreds of water bottles in a hour. But if you're going to do it manually, even if you employ 10 people, yes, you can't do that, right? So it's about the technology that you have to make things a little faster and productive. Okay, and the level of output. Okay, so what would be the level, I mean, quality of the output that you are giving. If your product is inferior, you can't price it high. People will not be willing to pay more money for that. Okay, so mathematically the cost function can be written as C equal to F of Q comma T comma P. So C is your cost, as we all know it's a cost function. Q is your output, T is your technology, P is your price of inputs. Okay, so our cost function is C equal to F of Q, T, and PF. Okay, yeah. So now we'll be like looking into different kinds of cost. Okay, the first one would be the opportunity cost. We have already discussed what is an opportunity cost. Okay, so I just gave you a small example here to like revise what is it. Okay, for example, you have an exam tomorrow. You spend all your night preparing for your exams. The next day, maybe you will be able to write your exam better, but you will be feeling very drowsy, right? So a good sleep is the cost that you are paying to get good marks, right? You're throwing off your comfort, right? So that is your opportunity cost. Okay, so as I was saying, opportunity cost is nothing but the value of the next best alternative forgone, because you're not choosing that alternative. So you chose to study instead of sleeping, so you forgot the good night's sleep, right? So that is your alternative, right? So the losing of that cost, losing that is your opportunity cost. Maybe if you are like doing it for a longer period of time, maybe for 1 year you're not sleeping properly, but you keep on studying, maybe you'll be able to get good marks and good job, but your health will deteriorate, right? Because a good sleep is very much essential to keep you healthy. So that's not really advisable, right? So you should be able to balance everything: your life, your studies, your or health, sleep, everything. Okay, so it's actually a revenue which is forgone for not making the best alternative use. Okay, so usually people in the top executive team always thinks about opportunity cost, about because they are the people who take very good right decisions. Okay, so next is economic cost. So economic cost, actually we can like classify that as a explicit cost and implicit cost. Okay, so when you say explicit cost, so it is actually a cost that you would like able to like see the payments that you make to your employees, and the money that you spend in buying your raw materials, constructing a factory. All this is explicit cost. Okay, so whereas implicit cost is nothing but a cost which which is like based on this on the self. I mean, when you say if you are a person and you're just starting a company, and then you spend your time, your effort, you put in a lot of things apart from that, right? So you are you're forgoing your salary. If you're like a job, if you put that much of effort in another job, you'd really given a very good salary, right? So uh, the salary is the implicit cost or the interest on the of the capital. I mean, imagine you have invested 1 crore rupees. Okay, so I mean, if you like deposited the same money in the bank, you'd be like able to get minimum of 1 lakh rupees per month as a interest. So you're forgoing this interest, and if you are like building the factory in your own land, right? If you have like give it for a rent, you could have got some more money, right? So these are the examples of implicit cost. You will be like using your own inputs. Okay, so this is called implicit cost. So both of this cost is together is called as economic cost. Okay, so you can also call that as recorded cost and unrecorded cost. So all the explicit cost will be recorded, whereas implicit cost, people take it for granted. They don't record this. Next one is the accounting cost. It's also kind of an explicit cost. It's like whatever that goes into the accounting records in the accounts, in the ERP of in financial ERP. Okay, into the accounts notebook, that is called as the accounting cost. So here, the salary for the owner, or the interest of the capital, or the rent for the land, if the land is like owned by the entrepreneur, that never comes into the accounting cost. Okay, so most of the time, this is a explicit cost. Okay, next type is a private cost and social cost. Private cost, it's actually a cost which is incurred by a firm on the purchase of goods and services from the market. Okay, so it actually consists of both explicit and implicit. Okay, whereas like social cost, it refers to the cost which the society is like borne. For example, if you imagine you're like starting a dyeing factory in Tirupur. Yes, you are paying uh, your employees. You are using your own land. You're building your own factory, and you're also working. So you are working, your salary and the rent for your own land becomes your implicit cost, and it's also the money that you're paying for your employees, and the building cost and machinery cost becomes your explicit cost. So all this becomes your private cost. But just because of the wastewater, which is like the pollution that you're creating in the rivers, or the pollution that you're creating in the air. Okay, it affects people who's living nearby, right? It affects the farmers who are dependent on that particular river for cultivation, or it affects the health of the people who are living nearby, right? So it is the social cost. Okay, so just because they have a factory here, I mean, it affects the rest of the people living nearby who are not completely associated with the factory. Okay, so that is called social cost. It's really hard to measure the social cost for most times, but but these are the facts. The social workers take this into an account. Okay, and the government also takes social cost into an account when they want to launch a new project, or like start the construction of a new factory, all these things. I think you should like heard about a lot of restrictions, a lot of agitations among the people for setting up new factories. And as there's a lot of controversy going on, so let's not talk uh, politics here, because I know this session is being recorded, so I'm not going to talk anything about this. Okay, I'm really missing the face-to-face talk. Okay, yeah. So next one is the incremental cost. So it's actually cost about an additional cost. Okay, for example, imagine you're making 10 shirts. Okay, and but you want to like increase your production to 15 shirts. So for making the 5 shirts extra might be you should be like buying your raw materials more, maybe more threads. You should be employing one or two more people, and you should be like buying few more machines. Okay, the cost that you spent to make additional products, so that is called incremental cost, because you're expanding your output. So the total additional cost that you spend in making your additional output is incremental cost. Okay, here you're incrementing your output. Okay, so it is called incremental cost. Next one is the sunk cost. I mean, it's about the money that you've spent in the past. Okay, you can't be able to like change it whatever you do. So imagine you want to like you're already running a factory and you want to like start a new factory, and then for that you like bought a new land. And because of this COVID-19, your sales went down, and you are in a position right now not to like start a new second unit for your factory. But the money spent in buying that particular land is actually a sunk cost. You're not going to use it anyhow. Maybe in the next 2-3 years you will not be using it, so you have wasted all your money on a piece of land. So that is a sunk cost. Okay, short run cost and long run cost. Short run cost is the cost which is like nothing but which is caused by a variation in the output. Okay, so it's actually same as your variable cost, you know. I mean, it accommodates only about the cost which is happening in a smaller period of time, as the name suggests. Okay, long run cost are the cost which is like incurring cost incurred in like setting up your fixed assets, like land, materials. I mean, not machines and the capitals. All these things comes under long run costs. Okay, whereas like employing, if you want to employ more people, so you will be able to increase your money spent on giving salary, right? So maybe that will comes under the short run cost, because the employee which is a short run cost. Direct and indirect cost. Okay, the money spent in like um, in relation to the cost, which are completely closely associated with the product. Okay, so if you're making phones, yes, the people who are making phones has to be paid. So paying them comes into direct cost. Buying all the electronic parts becomes your direct cost. But the cost incurred, like paying the electricity bills, or paying money for the stationery kits and other office expenses. I mean, these are like kind of not closely related. I mean, it is not like related to the core of the product or core of the service being provided, right? So these kind of costs are called indirect cost. Total cost, as the name suggests, it's nothing but the combination of total fixed cost and total variable cost. Okay, so we already know what is the total fixed cost and total variable cost, right? Average cost. So average cost is actually the total cost of producing per unit of commodity. If you're making 1,000 phones, the cost of making one phone is your average cost. Okay, so how do you compute this? First, you compute your average fixed cost, and then you compute your average variable cost, and then you sum it up. Okay, there are two ways of computing it. So first, you will be like computing the average fixed cost. So how do you compute this? You will like divide the total fixed cost with the number of units produced, and then you divide the total variable cost with number of units produced, and then sum it up. You can do that, or you can sum the total fixed cost as well as the total variable cost and get the total cost with number of units produced. You can either do it both way. You will get the same answer. Okay, so it's actually nothing but a cost in producing one unit, a single unit. Okay, whereas total cost is the cost for producing all the quantities, all the units. Okay, marginal cost. So marginal cost is additional to the total cost when one more unit of output is produced. For example, if you are making 100 phones, and but you want to make 101 phone, so you're just increasing the quantity by only one number, only one unit. Okay, so the difference in the cost spent between the 101 units and the 100 units of phone is your marginal cost. Okay, hope you're able to understand this. So it is actually here you're finding the difference between the total cost and also difference in the quantity. So here we are just making only one phone extra. Okay, so my initial output was 100. Now I am changing the output to 101. So and maybe imagine it takes only 1 rupee to make one phone. Let's just imagine this. So 100 phones, 100 rupees. 101 phones, 101 rupee. So 101 minus 101. So divided by change in the quantity is also 1. So the marginal cost is 1 divided by 1. So let's take a complex example. Maybe like I want to increase the output by 50 phones. Okay, it was 100 earlier. Now I'm increasing the numbers to 150. So my change in the total cost, because it was just costing more than costing around only 1 rupee, right? So 150 rupees minus 100 rupees. So it's 50. 50 divided by quantity change. It's also 50. So it's 1. Okay. So if the cost is like it's more than 1, you'll be getting a different marginal cost. Okay, hope you're able to understand this, because understanding a marginal cost is very important, because based on that we'll be able to work on the short run cost, long run cost, and as well as we'll be plotting a curve also. So understanding marginal cost is very important. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah. So so far we have been discussing about different types of cost. Okay, starting from like what direct cost, indirect cost, short run cost, long run cost, fixed cost, variable cost, total cost, so on. So it's actually based on there are different kinds of classification itself. Okay, so you have to really understand all this, because uh, when you're working in a company, or like when you start in a new firm, you always have to like understand this in a business point of view. Okay, so next is like let's try to compute cost in the short run. Okay. Okay. So here you have quantity in my x-axis, cost in my y-axis. Okay. So we are when you like plot the curve, when you plot the total fixed cost, so it's always the same. In the short run, fixed cost is always the same, right? So over a period of time, it might increase, but so it's always the same. Imagine I'm building a factory. I'm buying a land for the first time. Maybe I'm going to use it for the next 5 years. I spent 1 crore. So this is my fixed cost. It's going to remain for a period of time. And my total cost, it is increasing. Okay, it's kind of an S-shaped curve, but still it can be. I have my total cost here and my total variable cost. I mean, when you sum up your total fixed cost and variable cost, you get a total cost, right? So this is your variable cost. So when the quantity is increasing, the cost is also increasing. But you can see the small ups and downs, because it's kind of an inverse S-shaped curve, right? So because you're just summing the total variable cost with the total fixed cost, the total cost curve just shifts to the left. Okay. But if you want to like compute total variable cost, when you have only the total cost and total fixed cost, you just have to shift the curve to your right to compute the total variable cost. Okay, so we have studied this on in a demand curve and supply curve. So the curve kind of just shifts right. If you want to like find out your variable cost, and you have to like shift your curve to the left to find out your total cost. Okay, so so you don't have to like think it's always going to be the curve, or it usually most of the time this variable cost will be a straight line, right? It's a linear line, but and sometimes you might be getting a like a curve, uh, inverse curve, because of the law of variable proportions. We discussed the laws of variable proportion earlier, remember? So based on that, it might become a inverse S-shaped curve, but most of the times it will be a straight line. Okay, when my total variable cost is a straight line, my total cost is obviously going to be the straight line, because it depends on the total fixed cost. I mean, this total fixed cost is a constant, right? That's why. Okay. So next one is like, let's see how we can like draw a graph for average cost and marginal cost. So average cost, right? It's sum of average fixed cost and average variable cost. Okay. We have total cost, total fixed cost, total variable cost. Okay. Now we have to like add the graphs for other two cost, average cost and marginal cost. Okay. The definition for all this. We have discussed this. So I'm skipping this. Okay. Okay. You see here. Okay. You have the average cost curve here, average variable cost, average fixed cost. So you're computing average fixed cost, and then it's kind of decreasing, because over a period of time it will decrease, because you're not spending much money on that. Okay, it was kind of little high, right? As the quantity increase, the fixed cost will become a lesser. At the variable cost, it will start to decrease, but over a period of time it will increase. Okay, so this AC is, I mean, average cost curve is a U-shaped curve. Okay, so when both this AFC and average variable cost fall, this will also fall. So when you see both of the when both is falling, AC is also falling, right? When in the initially AFC is falling, AVC is falling, and AC is also falling. Okay, so it falls until it reaches the marginal curve, marginal cost curve. Okay, so this is your marginal cost curve. So it will decrease over a period of time. After that, it will start increasing. Okay, so it will reach, when it, after reaching the marginal cost, AC will start increasing. Okay, always the average cost will be minimum when MC is equal to AC. So this is the point where the average cost will be minimum. You can see that. Okay, when both the curves meet, the average cost will be minimum. So this is the place most of the times firms will be keen on producing, because they are having a less variable cost as well as less average cost and optimize margin cost. Okay, so when the average cost is rising, the MC curve lies above them. So see, when this is increasing, this is also increasing, but what happens? It is increasing dramatically, right? So when this AC and ABC is falling, this MC will be like below them. So when this is like less, when AC and ABC is less, marginal cost is also less. When it starts increasing, MC cost increase very high. Okay, when it starts increasing here, it actually started increasing exponentially. Okay, so this is how the average cost curve and marginal cost curve work. Okay, so let's look into the cost in long run. Excuse me. So this cost in the long run is nothing but the cost which is involved in buying the land, buying the machinery, creating the building a factory, and then getting a new technology, all these things. Okay, when you're making investments. Okay, so actually you call that as a fixed cost, right? But over a period of time, you might have to like upgrade your technology, you might have to like renovate your building, you might have to replace your machinery. All these things will happen. Okay, so when you like try to compute your long run cost, you have to like really look into this cost and long run function. Okay, so this is otherwise called as planning cost function or planning, and the curve is called as planning curve. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's look into the curves right now. Okay, so as usual, we have quantity in my x-axis, okay, and cost in my y-axis. Okay, so when you see when the quantity is at 0, you have your margin cost is decreasing and increasing exponentially, and my SAC is kind of it's my average cost. Okay, it's my short run average cost. So it's kind of coming down and it is increasing. Okay, so this is where it's meeting. Okay, so this is happening at a quantity 1. I mean, maybe your first quantity you are making only 1,000 products. Okay, when you're trying to shift to the quantity of 1,500, you want to make extra. So you'll be getting a different curve because your average cost will be shifting, as well as you will be having a different margin cost. Okay, you see the place where they meet, it's kind of shifting, right? It's changing. Okay, when you change it to when you change your quantity in another 5 years again, so maybe imagine this is like in 10 years. So it's the day 1, this is after 5 years, this is after 10 years. Okay, so this is your short run average curve, and this is your marginal curve. Okay, so you are just like summing up all the short run curves here from SAC1 to SAC3. Okay, here the output is like kind of increasing from Q1, so Q0 to Q1, Q1 to Q2. Okay, so let's see what happens next. So here you are this curve that we see here, right? So you'll be like smoothing this curve. This is your long run curve. Here you are smoothing this curve. Okay, you're smoothing this curve. Okay, it's actually you are like creating an envelope curve for all the short run cost functions through smoothing. Okay, so you still have this SA1, SAC1, SAC2, SAC3, but you're just like creating a envelope curve over these 3 short run cost curves. Okay, and then so this is your long run marginal cost curve. Okay, so this is your marginal curve in the longer run. Okay, let's see more about the marginal cost curve. So this is called as LMC. So this LMC is actually created by joining the parts of the short run marginal curve. Remember, we had the short run marginal curve here, 1, 2, 3 marginal curves. So this is there still. Okay, so you join the points on the short run marginal curves, which are like associated with this average cost. Okay, you like merge all these points to create this LAC curve. Okay, so always so in this scenario, I mean, you have to like say the optimum plan size is here because this is where your marginal cost is kind of less. Okay, so LMC, I mean, should be always less than LAC. Okay, when LAC is decreasing. See, when LAC is decreasing, LMC is always less than LAC. Sorry, LMC. Okay, and my second scenario is it would be equal when LAC is reaching to its minimum. When LAC is reaching to its minimum, both becomes equal. Okay, And my third condition is when LAC is kind of increasing, LMC will be increasing, but it will increase exponentially. Then the rate of increase of LMC will be higher than the LAC. Okay, so when LAC decreases initially, LMC is also decreasing. Okay, at a point it will reach when LAC becomes a minimum, LMC will be equal to LAC, and then when LAC is increasing, LMC will be higher than the LAC, but it will be very big. The number will be kind of exponentially increasing. So always, most of the times, the firms will try to produce in this stage to optimize their cost. Okay. So let's look into the cost of a multi-product firm. So so far we've been discussing was an assumption that one company will always be manufacturing one product. That's how we calculated the average cost, total cost, right? So imagine you are like working in a company where like it manufactures two goods. Okay, here we have an assumption it makes only two goods. Okay, so the total cost will be computed by total fixed cost. We have total fixed costs the same. You have the total variable cost. It becomes the summation of two products, Q1 and Q2. So this is the cost, variable cost. C1 is your variable cost for the first product. C2 is variable cost for the second product. Okay, so C into Q. So C becomes C1 Q1 for the first product, C2 Q2 for the second product. Okay, so that's how total cost will be computed. Okay. Whereas if it is one product, it will be just like TFC plus TVC, right? So to compute the average cost, we have to use the weighted average method. Okay, so it's actually based on the fixed proportions. Okay, so it's about like what percentage you are manufacturing the first product, at what percentage you manufacture the second product. So maybe you can say you will be making 50 products of phone 1 and 50 products of phone 2. Yes, then it will be the same. You can just go with this. But imagine you're making almost 80 products in the phone 1 category and 20 products in the phone 2 category. So to calculate the average cost, you have to employ this method. So F is your fixed cost. C1 is the cost of manufacturing one product for the first product, and Q is the number of product, and X1 is your proportion for that first product, and X2 is a proportion for the second product. So in here you are like using the formula F plus C1 X1 into Q plus C2 X2 into Q by Q. Q is the total output. Okay. See, we just note that here we are not using Q1 and Q2. We are taking the whole quantity in control. Okay. Cost of joint products, sometimes if we are like making two products, the process of making both the products would be the same, maybe for most of the time. So after a period of time, it might get the assembly lines might get differentiated. So imagine like Maruti, so the car company, so they'll be manufacturing Alto as well as you can say Dzire. Okay, let's say okay, both of them, they're making only these two designs, these two variants in the factory. So they should design, and then they should like have the plan ready. I mean, they should like have the base ready. Almost like most of the time, it is the same. Okay, so otherwise we can go to an example of like having shift and shift Dzire. Okay, so most of the time both the products looks the same except for the back of the car, right? So imagine maybe like the base would be the same, the front would be the same, the engine would be the same. So maybe at least 60% of the work for shift and shift Dzire should be like the same. So after the 60%, things will go different, right? So you to calculate the cost of this joint products, what should we do? Okay, so let's see this method here. Okay, so first we have the common cost. Okay, so this cannot be like kind of identified, because it is a same product. Okay, Swift Dzire is actually kind of an extension of Shift. So the R&D cost involved in making the Shift I mean, you cannot apply complete that to Desire, and you cannot apply the whole thing to Shift brand itself, because it's the same R&D, it's been done, right? So a few common costs are there, which cannot be like allotted only for one particular product. Okay, so R&D would be a very good example for that. Next one is separable cost. So few costs in maybe what do you say? Maybe the engine capacity can be the same, but imagine what do you say, the roof, or the roof in covering the back of the car, right? The money spent on making that would be like would be like more for the Swift Desire than comparing it for the Shift car, right? So here this can be like identified as a separable cost. Okay. So how do you like able to like calculate this? First one is through physical measure. So its common cost here are located in proportion to a physical measure. Okay, so you say you just like see, you measure. So imagine you like melting the sheet, I mean steel, and then you're creating this roof for the car, and then based on the square feet or square inches, you are like calculating the area and then allotting it. Yes, you can do that, or you can also work it on the sales value. I mean, how much sales value it's gonna bring it. So that how you can also like work that out. Okay. Okay. Next one is like we'll be like talking about how this total revenue, average revenue, and this marginal revenue will be like kind of related to each other. Okay. So you know like total revenue, right? It's actually nothing but money, a total money which is received from by selling all the goods. Okay, it's actually total money the company has earned by selling the goods. Okay, so it is calculated by Q into P. Q is the price of the quantity, and P is the price. Average revenue is total revenue divided by Q. It's actually a revenue earned by selling only one product. Okay, I mean not one product. The prices may vary, so maybe you can say a revenue earned per unit. Okay, next one is the marginal revenue. It's about like it's revenue a firm gets by producing one more unit. We talked about marginal cost, right? So likewise you have marginal revenue as well. So if you are selling 100 phones, you would be getting a revenue of 100 rupees. So my total revenue is 100, but by selling 101 phone, I would be getting 101 rupees. Okay, so here the marginal revenue is 1. Okay, because the change in the total revenue is 1 and the quantity change is 1. Okay, so the relationship between the total revenue and marginal revenue. So when you see the total revenue, it's actually kind of increasing to a point when the quantity is increasing, but it starts dropping off because you cannot able to make more money when you are increasing the product. When the quantity is kind of little higher and the price becomes 0. Here the price becomes 0, right? Okay, so this would be the optimal point. So the marginal curve will be like marginal revenue will be like identified, or the curve will be identified through by drawing the slope for this total revenue curve. Okay, hope you got this. Okay, so it can be this AR and the MR can be like closely associated with each other. So when we have like 3 positions where you can like try to create a relationship between both of them. Okay, so when the average cost is kind of decreasing, average revenue is decreasing, marginal revenue will also be decreasing, but at a higher rate. Okay, here when average revenue is convex to its origin. Okay, it's in the convex shape. Okay, it's when it is convex to the origin, MR will lie less than midway to AR. Okay, it's here. Okay, when AR is concave, it's completely in concave shape. So here it will be lying more than midway to AR. Okay, it's here. It's below the AR. Okay, so that's how AR and MR related to each other. If you got any questions, you can like post me so that we can discuss. So far we have been discussing about different types of cost in the long run, cost in the short run, and then how we'll be able to determine cost for the similar goods, different goods, as well as we were talking about marginal revenue, total revenue, and many more.